watch me go from this to this. This is not drag, this is high fashion, editorial, male to female fish. It looks simple, but there's actually a lot of thought that goes into it. Let me walk you through my products and techniques that I use to feminize my face. First thing I like to do is correct my beard and paint pot in the shade Art Thera Peachy. And it's great because it's a perfect peachy shade and it self-sets and it's a dry matte finish. I pack that all over my beard area, especially my upper lip and all around my chin where the blue shadow is the strongest. Then this is one of my favorite foundations to use. Full coverage, sets itself, and it's a nice natural finish. Love it. And I start where I want the most coverage, which is basically my entire jaw. I'll go back in with the second layer over my beard shadow. So now we have a pretty blanked out base. Now for highlighting, I like to use the Krylon TV paint sticks in different highlighting shades. You want to make your face look smaller when you're feminizing it, so I'm not highlighting the whole cheek. I'm really just highlighting the interior of the cheek, wrapping it around the nose and the upper lip, and then in the marionette lines in the mouth corners. So I'm kind of filling in that upper chin. Highlight that forehead, but keeping it very tight. One of my favorite products is the William Tuttle. This is the Shadow 1, and this is a great sort of reddish contoured shade. Perfect mixture between a contour and a bronzer. Now this placement is to shorten the face, so I'm tackling the forehead, doing the whole perimeter, and then I'm trying to really tackle my chin and to chisel it and make it smaller. Then I'll do a little bit of cheek contouring, but nothing crazy. You want to keep volume in the cheeks to chisel down the entire jawline. Because of the slightly reddish undertone of this product, it's also another great layer of color correction for the beard. You can see blended out how beautifully sculpts and color corrects, but it's still very soft and it doesn't look like stripes. So it's snatched from the side. You can see here how shortened the face is, so we've really cut down the forehead, and the chin has like this built-in shadow, which basically cuts it in half. Now, this is one of the Anastasia contour sticks in like a dense brush, and this is a really important step because I have thin lips. And this product is, you want to use cool contours in the center of the face, but I wouldn't use this kind of color anywhere near the perimeter because it could pull out a beard shadow effect. I'm basically contouring the lips and I'm bleeding it outward. And this is a foundation just to make the lips look larger and sculpt them. You can see I take that really far down onto the chin, so the contour from the bottom lip and the contour in the chin are working together to really shrink that lower third of the face. And then I'm going to set the whole face with a kimchi powder, translucent, with a large powder brush. Now I'm going in with my MAC Studio Fix powders, and I use about 3 to 4 colors. This is probably like C5, and I use this to set the entire perimeter of the face. And again, this peachiness will help further reinforce that color correction that we're doing on the beard. Then this is maybe NC15, and this is going to go one step further into the face towards the interior, in the middle of the cheek and around the mouth. Now I'm using another MAC paint pot in the white shade, and I just use a large brush and apply this to the entire eyelid. Now the eyes, I keep the eyes simple, but I do follow a quite interesting principle to again help shorten the face. Shivering white, and I apply this really tight into those highlight shades where I originally placed the TV paint stick. I also pop it over the eyelids and a lot on the forehead. And this is my primary highlight. I want the middle third of the face and the interior of the cheek to be the brightest area. This makes the face smaller and detracts from my jaw. This is maybe NC10, and this goes for my secondary highlight, which is around my mouth and the upper chin. So this is a Scott Barnes Voyager collection. I think this is the London palette, and all these steps basically just got us to what I call like my neutral base. Now we're going in with like the decoration, which is the color and the eyeshadow. First, I'm going in with the more neutrally blush shade, and blush is really important because We've kind of desaturated the face with all that foundation and powder, and it's sort of flat. So we're using this bronzer to sort of add the warmth and the blood back to the face. And on the forehead, above the arch of the brow, I don't contour my nose, but I like to use blush and around the tip. I really want this color to be everywhere. It's going in between the sculpting color and the highlight. Now I'm just using some sculpting powders to reinforce the lips, because it kind of gets lost. I just use powders because I can get that diffused finish. Then I'm just using a Peri-Pera lip color to kind of add the ruddiness back to my lips that was lost. I want the lips to be diffused. We have a really heavy powdered base. I go in with a setting spray just to help marry all those layers of powder together. See that the chin is really subtly yet effectively sculpted. The lips are contoured. There's blush, highlight. Everything is working together to highlight and contour the face strategically while remaining soft and photographable from different angles. Now, this is a Kajal powder. I just go in and just apply that powder into the wet, dry border of the eye, on the lower lash line, and then the upper lash line. It's a really good base before shadow. Now I'm using the eyeshadow palette from the Scott Barnes palette. I'm going in with that light color just to set the upper brow bone. So for the eye theory, I want to make the eyes bigger, but I'm not covering my eyebrows. So it's really important that I keep the eyes open in the upper part, because if I make this too dark or if I let the shadow get too high, it's going to close off the eye. So what I'm doing now is I'm using like a neutral brown shade just to line the lash line and smoke it out. And then I take the same shade and I go over the lower lid and I take it very far down. I can't move the brows, right? So if I want to make the eyes bigger, I really go down and out. I have to keep this spatial relationship between the brow and the lash line open. I'm going in with even darker colors into that outer half of the bottom lid. If you took a typical smoky eye and just flipped it upside down, I'm concentrating the darkness on the bottom lid, shifting the eye down, and then smoking it outward horizontally. You can see that I'm shrinking the space between the blush and the eyeshadow. It's roughly done, and I take that depth in the lower eyelid quite far down and all the way into the inner corner. I like to add some shimmer. This is the Half Magic Glitter Puck and Cyber Diamond, and I'm just gonna pack that onto the whole eyelid, up into the brow bone. It just adds texture and lightness and opens up the eye. So you can see that eye has it and that one doesn't. You can see how smoked out that is. And now I'm going back in the blush and I'm taking that poppier shade. So think of the first shade as our pre-blush, and then this is like our decorative blush. And I'm concentrating this on the apples of the cheek. And again, to shorten the face, I'm downshifting everything. So the cheek blush placement is quite low. A lot of people have the instinct to put blush quite high because I think that snatches the cheek. But if you have a long jaw and if you place the blush too high, you're just going to have all this open light space. That's just going to emphasize how long the face is. So I'm trying to cut the cheek in half in a way that minimizes the jaw. I'm making the cheek bigger than the jaw. So you can see like the cheek in the highlight in the upper third is like twice as large as the negative space I left for the jaw. And that's very intentional. And I'm filling in that space of the cheek with that smoked out lower lash line, because you can see how much higher the eye actually is versus how it appears. Now I'm going in with a darker liner, adding more contrast to the eye. It's just about building. You can see that liner, but everything's diffused and smoked out. Nothing's sharp. There's barely any product on the eyelid itself. It's just on the lash line. It's just barely creeping up on that outer V. Here, pomade just to reverse all the powder and foundation that got into the eyebrows. Now, I keep the brows quite natural, but I do take a pencil and I extend the tail of the brow quite far. Since we smoked out the eye downward and out so far, now we can afford to make the brows larger, and that's gonna widen the mid-face and support the illusion of a larger eye. Also notice how I use that pink blush shade and I sort of swipe it from the end of the shadow into the temples. You can see it on the upper brow bone. Then I just go in with a lot of highlighter because I like to add the texture back into the skin. This just photographs really beautifully, especially in the forehead, because I want to kind of round out so you can see how beautifully that photographs. I just want to suck the eye into the middle of the face and create roundness. Sculpted the edges with the blush and the contour shade. And then the cheek catches the light really beautifully. I also hit the lip. Eyelash curler, it's like a nail clipper and it curls the eyelashes in small sections, but it kind of crimps the lashes, so it just holds a lot better than a traditional eyelash curler. Then I'm not really particular about mascara. This one was kind of clumpy, but it doesn't really matter. And I just apply 2 coats to the bottom and tops. I actually like applying a lot to the bottom lashes because it helps drag the eye down and downshift that eye, which pretty much done at this point. You see how the highlighter really brings the lips to life and everything's working together. The highlighter just brings the skin back to life, essentially. Then I'm just bringing the highlighter onto the chest. You can see I think I added some more shadow. Usually I go back in the end and I'll like beef up eyeshadow where I see fit, sort of doing a halo eye. Then I use lip gloss just to kind of marry the lip together. Now the makeup's done, but this is before I turned off my lights. I use a brighter light when I'm applying the makeup, and then when I photograph it, I use a lower light setting, and you'll just see why. Because the light now is sort of overexposing my face slightly. It looks pretty, but it's washing out. I'm wearing a lot of makeup, but you can't really tell. And my favorite product is really blush. I mean, blush just helps sculpt the face and give the face a lot of color and life. Probably highlighter and blush are my favorite. But that's what we started at, and that's how we ended. This is like a lower light setting, and I turn off the lights in front of me, and this just adds more dimension to the face and shows off a lot of the sculpting that I did. And I also put a reflector in my lap, and that like reflects the light upward and kind of fills in the pores. But you can see the lower light also helps show off like the texture and the highlight and the glitter on the lid. I really love how the lips came out. Here you can really appreciate the highlighter placement and like the sculpting of the eyes. There were so many steps to the lips, but then they kind of came out looking like very simple, as if I just put on like a little bit of lip liner and a gloss. But you could see how that lower contour of the lip, which is like not even really part of the lip itself, and then that chin, which the chin it almost looks like a shadow from light, but you'll see that it's the same in every picture. And the trick to my chin contour is the blush, because the blush, if I were to just use cool tone shades or neutral shades to contour the chin, it would look like a beard shadow, but that blush keeps it warm and makes it look more like a shadow, counterintuitively. And I hope you guys enjoy the thorough breakdown and a little peek into the methods to my madness. Like and follow for more.